The young and the restless spoilers. The search for Sharon. Nick Newman was at his wits' end. Days had turned into weeks since Sharon disappeared, and every lead seemed to dissolve into thin air. His desperation had grown, clouding his judgment and leaving him grasping at straws. He wanted to save Sharon, but every step forward felt like 2 steps back. Enter Adam Newman. Adam's arrival was unexpected but, in hindsight, inevitable. Despite their turbulent history, Adam had a knack for showing up when it mattered most. He watched Nick pacing, his frustration evident, and decided to step in. "Nick," Adam said calmly, leaning against the doorway of the Newman ranch, "you're not going to find Sharon by running yourself into the ground. Let me help." Nick turned to him, his eyes narrowing. "Why do you care, Adam? This isn't your fight." Adam shrugged, his tone even. "Because Sharon is important to me too. And because you clearly need someone who knows how to think before acting." Nick bristled but didn't argue. As much as he hated to admit it, Adam was right. If there was one thing Adam excelled at, it was keeping a cool head under pressure. And right now, Nick needed that more than anything. The discovery together, Adam and Nick began retracing Sharon's last known movements, poring over clues and re-examining every lead. It was Adam who first noticed the anomaly, a series of faint, almost imperceptible markings on a map of Genoa City that seemed to point to an abandoned property on the outskirts of town. "This," Adam said, tapping the map with his finger. "This is where we need to go." Nick frowned. "An old storage facility? That's a dead end." Adam shook his head. "Not if someone wanted to keep her hidden. Think about it, it's isolated, forgotten, and no one would think to look there. It's perfect." Reluctantly, Nick agreed, and the 2 brothers set off together. When they arrived at the location, the air was thick with tension. The facility was decrepit, with rusted walls and overgrown weeds swallowing its perimeter. But as they approached, Adam's sharp eyes caught something unusual, a hidden door leading underground. "This is it," Adam said quietly, kneeling to inspect the latch. The door was heavy and reinforced, a clear sign that someone wanted whatever was inside to stay hidden. Nick's heart raced as he helped Adam pry the door open. Below, a narrow staircase descended into darkness. The faint, unmistakable smell of damp earth filled the air, and the brothers exchanged a glance. "Let's go," Nick said, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. The muffled cries. The underground chamber was cold and dimly lit, with walls of concrete and flickering bulbs casting eerie shadows. As Adam and Nick ventured deeper, they heard it, a faint, muffled cry echoing through the space. "Did you hear that?" Nick whispered, his pulse quickening. Adam nodded, his expression tense. "Someone's here." The cries grew louder as they moved closer, guiding them to a heavy steel door at the end of the corridor. Nick pressed his ear to the door, his face contorting with fear and hope. "It's her," he said hoarsely. "It has to be Sharon." But when Adam tried the handle, the door wouldn't budge. It was locked tight, and the steel was thick enough to make forcing it open nearly impossible. "Damn it!" Nick shouted, pounding his fist against the door. "Stay calm," Adam said sharply. "Panic won't get us anywhere." Inside, the muffled cries continued, a desperate plea for help that made Nick's stomach churn. He couldn't bear the thought of Sharon trapped behind that door, alone and terrified. Adam examined the door closely, his mind racing. "We need to find something to break this lock." Nick's eyes darted around the room, but there was nothing useful in sight. "We don't have time for this," he said, his voice breaking. "What if she's hurt?" "What if she's alive?" Adam interrupted, his tone firm. "We'll get her out." The struggle to break through. The brothers worked together, searching for anything that could help them break the door. Eventually, Adam found a rusted crowbar in a nearby corner. It wasn't ideal, but it was their only option. "This is going to take time," Adam warned as he wedged the crowbar into the edge of the door. "But we'll get it open." Nick nodded, his determination renewed. Together, they pushed, pulled, and pried at the door, their muscles straining with the effort. The cries from inside grew more frantic, spurring them on. "Come on!" Nick shouted, his hands blistering as he pulled with all his might. "We're so close." The metal groaned under their efforts, but it still wouldn't give. Adam's jaw clenched as he adjusted the crowbar, using all his strength to create leverage. "Almost there," Adam muttered, sweat dripping down his face. Just a little more. Suddenly, the crowbar slipped, and both brothers stumbled back, breathing heavily. "This isn't working," Nick said, his voice cracking with frustration. "We're running out of time." Adam placed a hand on Nick's shoulder. "We're not giving up. We'll find another way." A glimmer of hope as they regrouped, Nick noticed something he hadn't seen before, a small keypad embedded in the wall beside the door. "Adam," he said, pointing. "Look at this." Adam frowned, examining the keypad. "If we can figure out the code, we might not need to break the door at all." Nick's mind raced. "But how? We don't know who put her here, or what they'd use as a code." Adam's eyes narrowed as he studied the keypad. "Think, Nick. Whoever did this, what would they use? A date? A name? Something personal?" Nick hesitated, then punched in a series of numbers, the date of Sharon's disappearance. The keypad beeped in protest, the red light flashing. "Damn it," Nick muttered. "Try again," Adam urged. Nick entered another code, and then another, each one met with the same failure. But before he could give up, Adam gently pushed him aside. "Let me try," Adam said, his fingers moving deliberately over the keys. He entered a code and held his breath as the light turned green with a soft beep. The brothers exchanged a look of relief and anticipation as the lock clicked open. The unknown, they swung the door wide, their hearts pounding. Inside, they found a dimly lit room with a single figure tied to a chair, their face obscured by a blindfold and gag. The person's muffled cries filled the room as they struggled against their bindings. "Sharon?" Nick whispered, rushing forward. His hands trembled as he removed the gag and blindfold, but when he finally saw the face beneath, his breath caught. It wasn't Sharon. The fallout the revelation left the brothers stunned. Whoever this person was, they weren't the one Nick had been hoping to find. But the questions only multiplied. Who was this person? Why were they here? And, most importantly, where was Sharon? Adam's face hardened as he surveyed the room. "This isn't over," he said, his voice low. "Whoever did this, they're going to pay." Nick nodded, his resolve deepening. They had come so close, only to uncover an even darker mystery. But one thing was clear, they wouldn't stop until Sharon was found. The fight was far from over. This version adds suspense and emotional weight to the discovery while leaving the outcome ambiguous to keep readers hooked. Let me know if you'd like more details or further expansion. A frantic mission. Nick Newman's mind raced as he and Adam struggled to pry open the heavy steel door. The cries from the other side grew louder, desperate and agonizing. Every second felt like an eternity. Sharon, was she in there? Was she hurt? Was she even alive? As the crowbar slipped again, Nick shot a glance at Adam, his frustration boiling over. "How did you even find this place, Adam? It's like you knew where to look." Adam didn't flinch. "I connected the dots, Nick. Let's not waste time questioning how I got here. The only thing that matters is getting her out." Nick frowned but didn't argue. He couldn't afford distractions, not when Sharon's life was on the line. He decided to push the nagging doubts aside, for now. The missing guard. Meanwhile, another question loomed over both men like a storm cloud. Where was Jordan? Known for her cunning and ruthlessness, Jordan was the kind of person who never left loose ends. If this underground bunker truly belonged to her, why wasn't she here? Had she abandoned the place? Or was she coming back? The absence of answers gnawed at Nick, and he couldn't shake the feeling that their time was running out. "What if she comes back?" Nick said suddenly, his voice barely above a whisper. Adam didn't stop working the crowbar, his muscles straining as he pried at the door. Then we deal with her. But until then, focus. Nick nodded reluctantly. His hands were already blistered, but he kept pulling, every ounce of his strength driven by one thought: saving Sharon. The unexpected return just as they felt the lock give a little, a tiny glimmer of hope in the suffocating darkness. A sound from above froze them both in place. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps echoed down the narrow staircase. Adam and Nick exchanged a sharp look, their worst fears realized. Jordan had returned. She appeared at the base of the stairs, her silhouette framed by the dim light from above. In her hand was a gun, its barrel gleaming ominously in the faint glow. Well, Jordan said, her voice dripping with cold amusement. Looks like I've got company. Nick stepped forward instinctively, shielding Adam. Jordan, he said, his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. You don't have to do this. Jordan smirked, her eyes glinting with malice. Don't I? Breaking into my place? Meddling in my business? You've got guts, Nick, I'll give you that. But guts won't save you. A deadly standoff. Adam raised his hands slowly, his calm demeanor masking the tension coursing through him. Let's talk about this, Jordan. Shooting us won't solve your problems. It'll only make things worse. Jordan's smile widened, her grip tightening on the gun. Worse for who? You two? Or me? Nick's patience snapped. Where's Sharon? What have you done to her? Jordan's expression darkened, and for a moment, she said nothing. The silence was deafening, and Nick's heart sank as he realized she wasn't going to answer. But Adam, ever the strategist, took advantage of the pause. If Sharon's alive, keeping us here doesn't help you. Let us take her and leave. You don't want this mess on your hands. Jordan hesitated, her confidence faltering for the briefest second. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give Adam an idea. A daring move. Adam subtly motioned to Nick, signaling him to stay calm. Then, in a bold move, Adam began to lower himself to the floor, pretending to collapse. What's wrong with you? Jordan barked, stepping closer, her gun still trained on them. Adam groaned, clutching his chest. Heart attack, he gasped, his voice weak. Jordan's focus wavered, her gaze flickering to Adam. In that split second, Nick lunged. His hand shot out, grabbing the barrel of the gun and yanking it to the side. A deafening shot rang out, the bullet ricocheting harmlessly off the concrete wall. Adam sprang to his feet, grabbing Jordan's wrist and twisting it until she cried out, dropping the weapon. It clattered to the ground, and Nick kicked it away, sending it skidding into the shadows. The final push with Jordan subdued, Nick and Adam turned back to the door. Adrenaline surged through their veins as they worked together, slamming the crowbar into the lock with renewed force. Behind them, Jordan struggled against her restraints, spitting curses at them. You think this is over? You don't know what you're dealing with. Neither do you, Adam muttered under his breath, focused on the door. Finally, with one last heave, the lock gave way. The steel door creaked open, revealing the room beyond. What lies within inside, the air was thick and stale. A single bulb flickered overhead, illuminating the figure tied to a chair in the center of the room. The person was bound tightly, their face obscured by a hood. Muffled cries escaped their gagged mouth, desperate and pleading. Nick rushed forward, his hands shaking as he pulled the hood away. His heart pounded as he braced himself for the reveal. Sharon, he whispered, his voice breaking. But as the face beneath the hood came into view, Nick's stomach dropped. It wasn't Sharon. It was someone else, someone he didn't recognize. What the hell? Nick breathed, turning to Adam, who stood frozen in the doorway. A dark revelation. Adam's expression was unreadable as he stepped closer, his sharp eyes scanning the room. Something about this didn't add up. If this wasn't Sharon, then who was it? And where was Sharon? Before either of them could speak, the person tied to the chair began to sob, their words muffled but frantic. Adam quickly removed the gag, and the person gasped for air. Please, they choked out, their voice trembling. You have to stop her. She's going to kill her. She's going to kill Sharon. Nick's blood ran cold, his worst fears confirmed. Sharon was alive, but for how long? The clock is ticking as Adam and Nick processed the chilling revelation. Jordan's laughter echoed from the corner of the room. Despite her predicament, she looked almost triumphant. You're too late, she sneered. You think you've won? You've only just begun to lose. Nick stormed over to her, his fury barely contained. Where is she, Jordan? Where's Sharon? Jordan's smirk didn't falter. Wouldn't you like to know? Adam stepped in, placing a firm hand on Nick's shoulder. She's stalling. We don't have time for this. Nick nodded, his jaw clenched. Then we'll make her talk. The chase begins. The rescue mission had taken a darker turn, and time was running out. Sharon's life hung in the balance, and the brothers knew they couldn't afford another misstep. With the person they found now in their care, and Jordan subdued for the moment, the next stage of their journey was clear. They had to find Sharon. And they had to do it fast.